Ethan dragged me in front of the live stream to claim his mistress's private photos. Just because I refused, I was sent to the boxing ring that night. Facing a formidable opponent, I mentioned the child in my belly, but it didn't elicit any sympathy from Ethan. He held his trembling mistress. As long as you can withstand 3 rounds, those private photos can be destroyed. Anyway, you're tough enough to take it. The little girl's career is just starting, and she can't afford to be careless, but you will always be my only wife. After this is over, I'll take you on a honeymoon. I fought with all my strength for 3 rounds, my mouth full of blood. The audience watched like it was a show. No wonder she's Ethan's woman. No wonder she's the real deal. But Ethan thought my performance wasn't exciting enough and left with his mistress. After he left, my opponent went wild, punching me repeatedly in the stomach. Someone in the audience, unable to bear it any longer, called Ethan, but he scoffed. I stood up, legs trembling, and instinctively looked at my abdomen. My mouth was full of blood, and I couldn't tell if it was from being hit or from biting myself. I'll bet on her body. It's worthless now anyway. Ethan placed the photos on the table for everyone to see. The man looked at me expressionlessly, with Mia's lipstick mark on his collar. During the day, Ethan asked me to claim those photos for his mistress because he felt sorry for the girl whose career was just starting. And the photos didn't show her face. Netizens only recognized Mia by the mole. I had the same mole in the same place as her, which was Ethan's favorite spot. I didn't agree, and now those photos have been recklessly altered to have my face. I was also sent to the boxing ring by Ethan. The 3rd round is about to start, the last round Ethan spoke of. The man said 3 rounds in exchange for a chance to travel with me, which is fair. That trip was promised to me when we just got married. How did it become just an opportunity in his mouth? They didn't care about what I thought at all. They could twist the truth as they pleased. The pain in my abdomen was unbearable, and I spat out a mouthful of blood. But that only brought more intense screams from the audience. Ethan, what more do you want? I have your child in my belly. As soon as I said that, the whole place fell silent. I wanted to continue, but the whistle piercing my ears. Before I could react, a punch came straight at my face. After a long time, I lay gasping on the stage, all my strength used up. I was just glad I survived the 3 rounds, but no one in the audience planned to help me. I gently stroked my belly, an action that immediately made Mia's eyes turn red. Ethan, I'm suddenly a little hungry. Why don't we go get something to eat? Ethan touched her head without looking at me on the stage. A boring performance. You should practice more. I'll have the driver take you home later. The 3 matches that I was beaten to a pulp in, completely unable to fight back, were just a boring performance in his eyes. I wanted to scream, but my split lips wouldn't let me. Ethan took Mia's hand and got up to leave, not even thinking that I was still barely clinging to life here. Watching their backs disappear at the door, I got up from the stage with bated breath. I can't remember how many times I've watched Ethan's back. It seems that since I met Mia, I've seen his back the most. Even the last time I fainted because of anemia. He abandoned me because Mia said she wanted to eat barbecue. But the whistle blew again the next second. I had no strength to resist. The opponent seemed to have gone mad and punched my stomach again and again. Looking down for a moment, I saw that my lower body was already red. I heard the audience's wild shouts, whistles, and those unbearable bets. I touched my belly, and before I completely passed out, I heard Ethan's voice. I don't want this child anyway. When she figures it out and stops bullying Mia, she can come find me. 3 days later, I was about to leave the hospital. I ran into Mia being wheeled in on a stretcher. She was clutching her arm, looking pained. Before I could leave, 2 people dragged me to Mia's room. Ethan gently stroked Mia's hair. Don't be afraid, I'm here. I forced an ugly smile. In this scene, I only felt ridiculous. When I almost died in the boxing ring, he didn't say a single, don't be afraid. The television was reporting that Mia had acute leukemia, due to multiple fractures. In the next room, Ethan restrained me with iron shackles. The moment the thick needle pierced my lower back, I bit my lip. Years ago, I had a bone marrow match done. At the time, Ethan told me it was for my health. He used to joke that it would be a guarantee if I ever needed it. I just laughed it off, but now it was really coming in handy. Except he was no longer doing it for me, but for another woman. The nurse couldn't stand it and tried to advise Ethan. The patient has just had a miscarriage and can't withstand such a big ordeal. This could cause her. Ethan hesitated and looked at me. I turned my head away, not saying a word. The man frowned and looked at my flat abdomen. Anyway, the child is gone. The top priority is to save Mia. Cold sweat instantly soaked my hospital gown, and my vision went black. Ethan stood next to me, wiping away the cold sweat as if to comfort me. Chloe, you're so resilient. Don't worry, we'll go on a trip as soon as Mia recovers. His tone was full of charity, as if this trip was something I had begged for. My lips gradually became bloodless, and even the nurse couldn't bear to continue. After drawing 100 milliliters, I started to tremble all over. Mia was pushed in from next door at some point. She looked at me, terrified, and hugged Ethan. Ethan, will I never be able to act again? Hearing this, Ethan became even more anxious. He comforted Mia as he sent her back to her room, then ordered the nurse to continue drawing. Watching the bone marrow being extracted little by little, I remained expressionless. Only the gradually pale face betrayed my condition. I don't know how much time passed before it finally ended. Ethan bent down to unlock the shackles on my feet, and reached out to help me. I flinched back and asked with a smile, "Is there anything else you need from me?" Seeing me not resisting at all, Ethan felt particularly irritated. In my usual personality, I would have already made a huge scene, instead of sitting here motionless. I remember the last time I argued with Ethan about Mia. I had just found out I was pregnant. He left me alone on the mountainside, letting me walk home in the middle of the night. Ethan was about to say something when Mia's voice from the side caught his attention. A few more days passed, and I was finally cleared to leave the hospital. Ethan had already transferred Mia to a bigger hospital, saying that it had more complete resources. As it turned out, the next day they found out it was a misdiagnosis. During these days, only Ethan sent someone to deliver a gift, saying it was to celebrate our 5th anniversary. But that day's social media post was a picture of Mia and him holding hands. The caption read, "Only you." Mia's reputation improved overnight, and the previous photos were forgotten. The online sentiment even turned to portraying me as the third party, while they were the true love. As soon as I got home, I found that my room had become a storage room, filled with Mia's clothes. My eyes locked onto a red dress, and I remembered that it was a birthday gift from Ethan. He said he had searched many people to customize it, a one-of-a-kind item in the world. But Mia's was obviously much more elaborate than mine, and even had her exclusive name embroidered on the neckline. Looking at my belongings piled in the corner, scattered all over the floor, my tears fell unconsciously. I had just finished packing my things when I heard their voices from downstairs. They sat carelessly on the sofa that I had carefully arranged. The photo of Ethan and me that was originally in the center of the living room was now nowhere to be found. Before I could say anything, Mia saw me. She smiled and took my arm. "Sister, you're back. Ethan and I were planning to pick you up today. To thank you for donating bone marrow to me. Let's go out for a big dinner tonight." A hint of cunning flashed in her eyes, but she didn't show it on her face. I got in the car as they wished, but not in the passenger seat I was used to. Ethan said Mia gets carsick easily and has to sit there. Along the way, Mia and Ethan were all over each other in front of me. I just looked down at my phone, at the messages constantly popping up. Ethan frowned, seeing that his performance wasn't being appreciated. "What are you doing with your phone all the time? Don't you know you're going to get carsick?" I ignored him and Ethan's hand reached out to grab my phone. But when he saw the photo on my screen, his hand froze. This was a picture I drew of our family of 3 back then, which Ethan disliked and never used. Now the child doesn't even have the right to come into this world. When the car stopped at the door, the receptionist greeted us. He skillfully opened the passenger door, calling out, "Mrs. Ethan." As soon as I stepped into the private room, everyone's eyes locked on me. I sat next to them like a transparent person, mechanically chewing on the cold appetizers. Since the boxing ring incident, Ethan has been increasingly taking Mia to various occasions. And now I am forced to accompany them, just a ridiculous foil. "Mr. Wallace suddenly turned the spotlight on me. "Come on. Mia said she can't drink, so she brought you specifically to cover for her." Whether she gets the lead role in her next drama depends on your performance tonight. I subconsciously looked at Ethan. His eyes were as cold as ice, but he had a smile on his face. My wife can hold her liquor very well, Mr. Wallace, please feel free to toast. My fingers trembled as I took the wine glass. This wine is poison to my current body. But under Ethan's gaze, I had no choice but to raise my head and drink it all. The strong liquor burned from my throat to my stomach, instantly triggering a sharp pain. One glass after another. My vision began to blur, and all I could hear was the laughter of the crowd and Ethan's occasional socializing. Mia said hypocritically, "Sister, are you feeling unwell? Should I drink it for her?" Ethan interrupted her decisively, and poured me a full glass himself. "Mia is not feeling well to begin with and has an ad shoot tomorrow. She can't drink. You are Mrs. Ethan, this is your duty." Duty, what an ironic word. When we got married, he said my duty was to be happy by his side. Now my duty is to block the wine for his mistress. I saw the jealous look in Mia's eyes. I knew she was jealous that I still had to occupy the title of Mrs. Ethan even in this state. I suddenly covered my mouth, but it was too late. Bright red blood seeped from between my fingers, dripping onto the snow-white tablecloth. Ethan stood up and helped me up anxiously. But as soon as he started to speak, Mia dropped the glass in her hand behind him. She cried out in pain, and the next second Ethan's hand shifted direction. I watched Ethan's back as he picked her up and left, and I couldn't even cry anymore. My phone was flashing constantly beside me. "Ethan, this is the last time I'll see your back. I won't follow in your footsteps anymore." He probably felt bad, so Ethan went home alone late at night. He held a bouquet of roses, but half of the flowers were already withered. I ignored him, only looking at the messages on my phone. Ethan was impatient, but still maintained his gentleness. "About the honeymoon I mentioned last time. Where do you want to go? We've been married for so many years, and I've mentioned the places I wanted to go more than once. But he never took it to heart. I don't want to go anymore." Hearing my such calm reply, Ethan was about to go crazy. He didn't understand what tantrum I was throwing again, when he had already agreed to make up for the honeymoon. Just because he let me have a few drinks? Ethan didn't look at me again, taking out his phone to send a message to his subordinate to book plane tickets. He said he was booking tickets for himself and his wife. The subordinate was quick, and the tickets were booked in the next second. But I clearly saw that the name on it was clearly him and Mia. Ethan's movements froze, wanting to find an excuse to explain. But those words seemed particularly pale, no one would believe them. I forced a smile. "Then I wish you have a good time." Ethan's phone kept ringing. He glanced at it, and the expression on his face changed. He had promised to go back and make a late-night snack for Mia tonight. Leaving only a sentence that he would notify him to cancel and rebook later, he left. He didn't show up again for a whole week. However, I received an invitation from Mia, inviting me to her celebration party. She said it was all thanks to my efforts that night that she landed the leading role. Mia's celebration party was grand, and I only wore the simplest clothes. Those expensive clothes had long been taken by Mia. The necklace Mia was wearing on her neck was the Zhou family's heirloom. When I married Ethan, my mother-in-law took it out for me, but Ethan stopped her. He said I was extravagant and couldn't take care of such things. I was arranged to sit in the most remote position, but I could clearly see the stage. Ethan stared intently at Mia, who was speaking on the stage, his eyes gentle enough to drip water. Without Mr. Ethan's careful guidance and care, I wouldn't be where I am today. She blew a kiss in Ethan's direction. The whole audience was in an uproar. Everyone's eyes scanned back and forth between me and Ethan, waiting to see the reaction of the official wife. I had a perfect smile on my face without saying a word. Mia's speech continued, but the lights in the banquet hall suddenly flickered. At first no one noticed, until a sharp cracking sound came from the ceiling. One of the chains of the chandelier broke, and the light body swayed and smashed towards my table. The crowd instantly panicked, screams rang out. "Careful!" Ethan almost jumped up instantly, but not towards me. In the last second before the chandelier fell, he pounced on Mia on the stage, hugging her and rolling into a safe area. The entire banquet hall was in chaos, guests pushing and shoving towards the exit. I stood in place, watching the blood on my arm dripping onto the carpet. 20 meters away, Ethan was carefully checking Mia for injuries. From beginning to end, he didn't look in my direction. I mingled into the crowd and quietly left. At the airport, I looked at the screen in my hand showing the upcoming boarding, and left my phone card in the trash can. Ethan loosened his tie and leaned back on Mia's apartment sofa, closing his eyes to rest. The chandelier incident had happened 3 hours ago, and his temples were still throbbing. The image of me resolutely leaving kept flashing in his mind. Mia nestled in his arms, her fingers gently massaging Ethan's temples. "Ethan, I was so scared today. That chandelier almost hit me." Ethan recalled that the direction of the chandelier was clearly aimed at where I was standing. But at the time, he didn't think much and rushed towards Mia, who was closer to him. Ethan didn't answer immediately. He took out his phone, but the notification bar was empty. According to the usual routine, I should have sent a dozen messages asking him when he was coming home, or at least to let him know I was safe. But ever since he sent me to the boxing ring, the chat window had become unusually quiet. He always thought I was just being temperamental, and that a few comforting words would do the trick. But I had actually endured it for so long. A message suddenly popped up on his phone, and he excitedly picked it up, only to find it was a message from his subordinate about rescheduling the ticket. Mia leaned over to see it and exclaimed, "Paris! Ethan, how did you know I wanted to go there recently? Did you also?" Her voice trailed off when she saw the name clearly, and in just a second, her expression changed to one of grievance. Seeing her eyes turn red, Ethan didn't comfort her for the first time. "I'm going to make up for my wife's honeymoon. You'll have to wait for next time." He immediately forwarded the message to me, reminding me to pack my luggage. He thought I would immediately call him and ask him to come home to pack together, but I didn't reply for a long time. Ethan sent several messages in disbelief before confirming that he hadn't been blacklisted. He dialed my number. After a long wait, it went to voicemail. Ethan frowned and instead dialed the villa's landline. The housekeeper answered the phone, her voice flustered. "I was just about to contact you, madam. Her things are all gone." Ethan jumped to his feet. "What do you mean gone?" The man's knuckles turned white. The image of me spitting blood in the boxing ring, and the way I stood alone in the chaos tonight with blood running down my arm flashed before him. Ignoring Mia's attempt to stop him, he strode out and drove straight home. A sticker for Mia's exclusive use was attached to the passenger seat, and he remembered when we were first dating, I pouted and said that the passenger seat could only belong to me. The man stood at the door, but hesitated to go in. My pair of slippers were gone from the doorway. Those were the matching couple slippers I bought, and now only his were left, lonely. The room was empty as the housekeeper had said, but the things he had given me were all still there. The group photo that was originally on the bedside table had also been torn, leaving only his part. Ethan cursed a few times at the empty room, feeling a sense of frustration. He didn't understand what right I had to run away from home. Could it be that I really wanted to throw a tantrum and never come back? "Chloe, don't play these childish tricks. I'll give you 1 day to come back, or I'll cancel that ticket." Ethan kept extending the deadline, but I never showed up. Even some friends who had previously communicated with me said they hadn't seen me. My social circle had become centered around him after I married Ethan. I had to unconditionally please and cling to the so-called friends he spoke of. Ethan didn't allow me to maintain contact with my old friends, and he even deleted everyone from my phone except for women. But he said he needed to socialize, so he never used this to restrain himself. The Fight Club owner wasn't by his side today. Instead, he was in another VIP box. "Ethan, who are you betting on to win today?" Ethan glanced casually, a cold smile playing on his lips. "The one on the left." The follower looked at the stage, and suddenly seemed to remember something. Last time I saw him, it was with Chloe. Hearing this, Mia's expression turned sour. Recently, Ethan had been emphasizing my status as his wife, which had prevented Mia from getting many roles. Ethan didn't respond, his gaze sweeping across the Fight Club. "It's been a month, and I've vanished without a trace. The police can't find me, private detectives can't find me, and even my old friends haven't heard anything." This sense of losing control made his chest feel tight, so he could only vent by coming to the fight club more frequently. Ethan bet $1 million right away, but the person in the other VIP box seemed to be competing with him. He bet $1 million and $1 on the other fighter. Ethan frowned. No one had ever driven up the stakes like this before. Moreover, the person he picked always won. Almost no one bet against him. Today his opponent was just an unknown nobody he'd never seen before. Ethan waved his hand and added another $1 million, but as soon as he shouted it out, the person in the VIP box followed suit. Ethan was now completely certain that the person was targeting him. He wanted to continue, but Mia stopped him. Ethan, he's definitely going to lose anyway, why bother? The man held his phone in his hand, nodding perfunctorily. He'd been holding his phone constantly lately, just hoping I would send him a message. The competition on stage was intense, but Ethan's mind wasn't there. Every punch, every minute, reminded him of how I looked on the stage back then, helpless yet tenacious. He didn't snap back to reality until the fighter he'd bet on was knocked to the ground. The man got up and walked toward the VIP box next door, wanting to see who was challenging him. But as soon as he pushed open the door, 2 bodyguards immediately pressed him to his knees. Then one slap after another landed on Ethan's face, instantly turning it red. Ethan tried to struggle but was held down tightly. He looked up, and it took him a while to recognize the person in front of him. Lucas. His old rival from college, my childhood sweetheart, the one who started a business at the same time as him. But later he moved his company's market overseas, which prevented them from clashing head-on. The host's voice was suddenly interrupted by a burst of piercing static. The fighter's information on the big screen suddenly disappeared, replaced by a blurry but clear video. In the video, a thin woman was curled up in the corner of a boxing ring, her face covered in blood. And her opponent showed no mercy, punching her in the stomach again and again. It was me. Before Ethan could react, Lucas's fist slammed into him again. Is this how you take care of Chloe? Letting her get beaten until she has a miscarriage? Lucas threw a stack of documents onto Ethan. On top was a divorce agreement with my signature. Ethan was trembling, staring at the big screen, his eyes unblinking. He suddenly lost all his strength, only muttering that this was impossible. Seeing him like this, Lucas kicked him a few more times out of spite, and then walked out. Seeing Ethan's widened eyes, I knew he had never considered Mia as the mastermind behind this. He only thought it was a subordinate's poor arrangement, never suspecting his little mistress was the one causing trouble. Raindrops fell little by little on his face, making Ethan's expression exceptionally ugly. Soaked to the bone, he stood on the steps, his fingers clutching the doorframe as if it were his last lifeline. I took out my phone from my pocket and opened a recording. Mia's voice came through clearly. Just hit her casually. Ethan promised me that as long as I can embarrass Chloe in public, he'll agree to divorce her and let her leave with nothing. Another voice in the recording sounded worried. But Mrs. Ethan is still pregnant. Mia replied nonchalantly. So what? Just a child. I'm about to become Mrs. Ethan anyway. What does her child matter? The recording stopped abruptly. Ethan's knees slammed hard on the stone steps, the pain far less than 1/10,000th of his heart being torn apart. He shook his head frantically, wanting to explain. But in the face of these recordings, everything he said seemed pale and weak. Ethan trembled as he took out his phone. He frantically searched his contacts, his fingers slipping several times before finally dialing Mia's number. The moment the speakerphone was activated, Mia's familiar, coquettish voice came from the background. Ethan? Where are you? I've been looking for you for so long. Every word Ethan spoke seemed squeezed out from between his teeth. That night at the boxing ring, was it you who arranged it? Mia's laughter was a bit stiff. Are you drunk? What boxing ring? Ethan stared at my face. Did you instruct that person to specifically attack my wife's abdomen to cause a miscarriage? When did I ever tell you I would divorce Chloe? There was some static, and Mia moved to a quiet place. When she spoke again, her voice had completely changed with a disdainful sneer. That stupid woman told you. She deserves it. Who told her to keep occupying the position, and not divorce you? Besides, didn't you tacitly approve of everything I did? Ethan hung up the phone abruptly. He looked up at me, rain and tears blurring his vision, but he still saw the calmness in my eyes. It wasn't forgiveness but complete liberation. I took a step back, and Lucas wrapped his arm around my shoulders at the right moment. Ethan, go back. I don't care about what you did anymore. It has nothing to do with me. The door slowly closed, isolating Ethan in the rainy night. At the last moment, he heard Lucas's gentle voice. Want some hot cocoa? I added cinnamon. Then my smiling reply. Yeah, just right to warm my stomach. He knelt in the rain, the phone screen still lit, displaying Mia's frantically repeated missed calls. The ring that had fallen to the ground was carried away by the rain. Ethan desperately tried to pick it up. But the next second, the ring was swept into the sewer. Just a day ago, he was still the high-ranking CEO Ethan, firmly believing that as long as he bowed his head and apologized, he could salvage everything. Now he knew that some mistakes could never be remedied. Like that wedding ring washed into the sewer. Like that child who never had the chance to be born. Ethan finally broke down and burst into tears at the door. Ethan returned to China alone. The first thing he did upon his return was to release all of Mia's photos. The original photos were in his possession, but he cropped out the heads when releasing them. Those were just accidentally leaked when he showed them to friends and didn't notice. Back then, the young girl was panicked and afraid her career would suffer, so he thought of the mole in the same location as mine. He originally only wanted me to help Mia take responsibility for the photos, never intending to actually hurt me. Now, disregarding Mia's repeated pleas, he released the original photos. He published an apology to me in the newspaper, saying that he had hurt me. Mia's reputation plummeted overnight, and all the deals she had secured were terminated one after another. She suddenly incurred debts of hundreds of millions, and even her friends broke off contact with her. And the things Ethan had given her were all taken back and burned. Mia had no choice but to do various jobs to repay her debts. But Ethan didn't plan to let her go, and he took her to the boxing ring that very night. How could a delicate female celebrity be a match for those who didn't care about their lives in the boxing ring? After only a few punches, Mia's face, which she was so proud of, started to bleed, looking disfigured. Mia knelt and kowtowed repeatedly, begging Ethan to spare her this time for the sake of their past feelings. But Ethan just stared blankly. At this moment, the image that wouldn't leave his mind was still the last look I gave him as I lay in a pool of blood. In that look there was still love. He finally understood that he had lost not only my love but also the basic conscience of a human being. The man bought another house next to the house that Lucas and I shared. Ethan only came once a week, mostly just standing far away at my front door, watching. He was afraid of seeing me appear alone, and even more afraid of seeing me with Lucas. When Ethan appeared again, he was sitting drunk as a skunk in front of my house alone. The moment his eyes caught sight of me, he stood up like a little kid. The man handed me a notebook he was tightly clutching in his hand. Chloe, look. I told you I would make you a memoir, for us to look at together when we got old. Ethan had indeed said that, but it was when I had just married him. Before we got married, I especially liked taking pictures, feeling that photos could help me remember many things. Under my influence, Ethan also took quite a few pictures for me. Back then, he always loved to show off on social media, saying that he had the best girlfriend. But after we got married, everything changed. He became busy and stopped loving me. The number of photos he took for me each year could be counted on one hand, almost only on my birthday. He gave all his patience and tenderness to someone else. I still remember the first time I saw Mia's social media posts. I recognized that the photos were all taken by Ethan. I was stunned when I opened the first page. This was the Ethan handbook I kept when we first got married, recording all his likes, dislikes, and habits. In the hated foods section, I wrote that he was allergic to eggplant. Next to it was Ethan's newly added handwriting. Actually not allergic, just hate the soft texture. Didn't want to disappoint you so I ate it. Now I can't eat it even if I want to. The handwriting stopped in the middle of that page, as if he couldn't write anymore. I touched my belly, which had a scar that could never be healed. Ethan, it's no use saying this now. I don't like you anymore. You think it hurts, right? But it hurt even more when you abandoned me again and again. Ethan's eyes were full of pleading. He didn't dare to get close to me. Please. Chloe, we haven't even reached the age where we can reminisce together. I don't want to leave you. I have no way to leave you. I looked down at the photos. The Ethan in the photos had eyes full of love, completely different from the man who coldly watched from the boxing ring. Before I could say anything, Lucas rushed out of the house. When the fist landed on Ethan's face, he didn't resist at all. Tears streamed down Ethan's cheeks, and he looked at me, hoping I would come out and stop it. I tugged at Lucas's sleeve, and Ethan's eyes immediately lit up. But before he could speak, I said, "Don't hit him, it'll hurt your hand." Ethan was stunned. A long time ago, I used to speak to him so gently too. But he had pushed all of that away himself. I took the notebook and threw it into the nearby trash can in front of Ethan. Ethan tried to stop me, but there was nothing he could do. The note tucked inside the notebook fell out. It was a gift I had given Ethan. I told him that if he ever couldn't find me, he should send me the note, and I would come back no matter where I was. But he didn't realize that this note also had an expiration date. "Ethan, it's quite boring. I'm about to start my new life, so please don't bother me anymore." I tore up the note and threw it in front of him. Expired things are simply not worth mentioning, just like the kindness he once showed me. Ethan was crawling towards the trash can. He leaned half his body inside to retrieve the notebook, not caring that his expensive suit was soaked in sewage. I watched him turn his head and look at Lucas. I squeezed his hand. "I want to eat fish tonight." Lucas held my hand back and nodded in agreement. The rain grew heavier, gradually blurring the scenery outside the window. In the halo of the streetlights, Ethan was still kneeling there, holding a few photos of me that he had rescued, like a beggar who had lost everything. The things that happened between Ethan and me were exposed, and Joe's stock plummeted. Everyone was counting on Ethan to lead them out of their predicament as he had done before. But Ethan was depressed and stayed in the room where I used to be every day. He could see traces of me in every corner. Ethan died on a rainy night. He left all his belongings to me. After his body was cremated, it was casually thrown into the woods. A person who was once so arrogant didn't even have a grave after death. When I received this news, I was watching the kitten that Lucas had just brought back. When I heard it, I only nodded, but there was no ripple in my heart. I was just thankful that I had already started a new life with a new person.